As Gore Vidal said, it should be called the United States of Amnesia, because everyone just forgets what has already happened. I've been pretty politically left most of my life, mostly because of 9/11, which was undisputedly an inside job orchestrated by the US government, and the subsequent Iraq War, which had no justification for anyone with an IQ over 90. I grew up identifying with punk things and liking anti authoritarian culture because it was cathartic and honest. But during the COVID pandemic, I had more right wing feelings than I've ever had before because I hate statism and I saw rampant statism, for which no one is saying sorry. I'm still waiting. And many, many people still convinced there was nothing sketchy about forced vaccination and economic shutdown for a marginal disease that no one you know died from, but the shot for which gave at least 5 people I know myocarditis. I'm pretty sure elements of COVID portend an even more statist future, alike to the novel 1984. That's very scary to me because I hate government. You should hate government too, as government is the single largest murderer of human beings in the 20th century, far more violent and atrocious than disease and guns combined. There's only one organization that wants you to believe that disease and guns are worse for you than government, and that is government itself. Violent gun crime is more than halved since the 90s. It's an extremely peaceful time to be alive. Americans are stupid and they emulate people who have power, celebrities, politicians, and they do things like say, free Palestine, but they refuse to look at the bigger narrative that Israel versus Palestine is just the forerunner to World War III. When you say that, they say, stop with all the conspiracy theories. Where is the line between truth and conspiracy theory for you? Do you believe one guy who was a communist assassinated JFK even though the bullet would have to defy physics, and there are about 1,000 reasons to believe there's more to the story? Then, coincidentally, JFK's brother was also assassinated, I'm sure, by a total lone gunman who was not in any way a CIA sleeper. Robert John Bardo, Lee Harvey Oswald, Mark David Chapman, Jack Ruby, John Hinckley, James Earl Ray, and Sirhan Sirhan all had in their possessions a copy of The Catcher in the Rye, sometimes considered to be a CIA sleeper token. If you're the CIA and you want or need someone gone, you don't just kill them in broad daylight. You find a hysterical loner and brainwash them into doing your bidding with the most advanced technology and psychological know-how that has ever existed ever. If you don't think the CIA is advanced to that level, I urge you to keep in mind that they had a gun that could give someone a long-distance heart attack as far back as the 1970s. But being an avid astrologer, I think there are deeper motifs at play, and I can somewhat prove it. Allow me to expound upon a facet of my newly minted religion I call Shamballah and Agartha, and I urge you to test it for yourself, as I urge you to test anything I claim for yourself, and not just trust me. There are 12 astrological signs, 6 active and 6 passive signs. The active signs are the air and fire, Libra, Aquarius, Gemini, Aries, Leo, Sagittarius. The passive signs are the earth and water, Capricorn, Taurus, Virgo, Cancer, Scorpio, and Pisces. To a fairly one-to-one degree, you can observe that what we call liberal is generally resigned to passive sign energy, and what we call conservative is generally resigned to active. There are some wild cards, like Aquarius, who wear many silly hats, but generally a Scorpio is more likely to be a feminist than an Aries, and a Cancer male is more likely to vote left than a Libra male. If you just trust this axiom at about 90%, you will be a lot less surprised by the way things go. Take, for instance, Tomi Lahren, a Leo with an Aquarius moon, who seems to be the spiritual inheritor of the spirit of Ann Coulter, herself a double Sagittarius. These conservative women who happen to be double active signs have very little patience or sympathy for men who are anything less than something dominant, butch, militant, and/or rich. How someone from my generation can sidestep the whole Bush did 9/11 and Iraq and Afghanistan invasions to bring the message that we should push aggressive Trumpian capitalism because we want to be able to buy our wives redlined houses and shopping centers because it worked for dear old dad is lost on me. But maybe that's because my dad, a Sagittarius, was a violent, narcissistic, abusive sociopath and lacked moral boundaries, just like the unending litany of Republicans who end up molesting kids or getting caught in a hotel room doing meth with male prostitutes. Those tropes are always ignored by the cultarians for some reason. They have a blind spot. They seem to not understand there's a correlation. and that blind spot cost me my childhood and safety as a child, so I have no sympathy for conservative claptrap, which is all horse shit. Meanwhile, however, the passive signs seem de facto left, be it Scorpio Hillary Clinton, Cancer Gloria Allred, who sued her way into the Friars Club, or Pisces Judith Butler, the they-them queen of gender studies. It seems that passive signs have what we consider liberal on lock. I wonder if there are only so many motifs in the human condition, and if these signs simply represent iterations of those themes in eternity, but I digress. You can never be sure that it's not the will of the divine that these energies interact or coalesce. In fact, I have a feeling that it is. When our conservative angry Barbie Tomi Lahren goes head to head with Pisces Jessica Tarla, it's the basic rigmarole of conservative, I believe in strength in the Constitution and ignore perversion, corruption, and conspiracy, versus liberal, no matter who is seconded in society, they are automatically better or more right than the prevailing forces. That whole grift. I think both these archetypes are just intel agency clones. It's crazy how consistent this axiom is, so much so that when I was writing a book, I needed to term this. Well, I termed it after Shambhallah and Agartha, the two mythical kingdoms in Tibetan Buddhism. I think that there was a time where this dynamic was better understood and not corrupted by commerce and entertainment. Freemasonic paintings always feature the sun and moon, passive and active paradigm, for instance. I pretty much know that if we knew enough about astrology, we would live in harmony with these things, instead of trying to constantly either oppress each other or flagrantly support them in contrast to the prevailing force. As for many liberals, they can never accept when they are the prevailing moral force, but that's what they are now. Or are they? If we accept Sandy Hook was fake, because it was, or COVID was severely fudged to accomplish some Democrat aims, because it was, does it not seem like the dichotomy of Democrat-Republican is a false one that is presented to control your perception of who is right and wrong on any given subject? As Noam Chomsky said, the smart way to keep people passive and obedient is to strictly limit the spectrum of acceptable opinion, but allow very lively debate within that spectrum. I'm not liberal or conservative. I'm a nuanced blend of beliefs and mostly an anarchist because I believe in full radical freedom with no government suppression. But that doesn't mean I think everyone is right in doing anything they do, no matter what they do. I promise you, though, there's no government that can ever mitigate what astrology and numerology can show you to be true. Donald Trump is very active, a Gemini with a Sagittarius moon, same moon as Ann Coulter, and a lot of Leo, and that is mostly why old people like him, because they all collectively have Pluto in Leo. They like leonine traits. In contrast, people born 1984 to 1995 all have Scorpio traits, which is what's called square Leo, as in they hate each other. One has if these walls could talk Chloe Sevigny energy, herself a Scorpio, and the other is holding on to Arnold Schwarzenegger machismo bluster. Arnold is a Leo. Often, when talking to friends on the left, I feel they don't actually hate Trump, rather they love to hate Trump. There's a difference. I hate Trump, but I hate Obama too. But that is all temporary, my friends. Long after Trump or millennials versus boomers, there still will be humans. I'm willing to wager there will be new underclasses, and the passive signs will defend them, and there will be new ideations of what to conserve, and the active signs will defend that. We carry this world together, and if we do retarded shit, future generations will attempt to conserve the retardation, and probably burn people at the stake for criticizing Crocs or dubstep. Amish are the most conservative Americans, but somehow the 1800s need conserving and Satan is an electricity worldview seems loony, whereas someone saying, let's pretend it's the 1950s all through the 80s, seems just normal conservative, and somehow warrants its own news network. If someone has a Cancer moon, I can almost promise you they fixate on womanhood and feminine roles and rights. That's because Cancer rules womanhood. It's only logical that a Cancer moon would have a more female-oriented worldview. Yet, lacking this knowledge, we see a man with a Cancer moon and deride him as gay or pussy-whipped or whatever. Capricorn, Aquarius, and Pisces are the axis of gender bending, for instance. I cannot get mad at an Aquarius who cosplays or looks like an anime character because they're freaking Aquarius and that's what they do. They're from space, they're not from here. Do not expect them to wear a suit and tie without irony. I expect my cancer friends to highlight issues like abortion and yet somehow simultaneously child rights, because that's what cancer is about. I've found this to be the most all encompassing philosophy available, and I've read them all, I think. I'm a Libra. Kevin Sorbo is a Libra. I don't think everything Kevin Sorbo thinks, but he did tweet the ineffectiveness of masks like a rational, sane person, which became a medical fact mere months later, just like the fact that social distancing did absolutely nothing. But I digress again. But of course, the COVID Stasi came policing his fundamental free speech, as the Biden government also did by using social media to silence debate about it. Biden is a Scorpio, passive, by the way. You should be mad about that. In fact, COVID and the subsequent censorship and totalitarian fascism is reason enough to totally dismantle the federal government, which would be the right thing to do if you were as brave as your forefathers, conservatives. But you're not going to do that. You're just going to argue about trans because you've been made into a whipped dog by statism. People often perform a certain arc, and it's this: I'm younger and I want to stick it to the man, so I'm not fiscally responsible. Then, I'm older and wiser, so I obey traffic laws, pay debts, and live as society demands. Fuck that. This system is so tilted against truth and reality that people will actually elect an incestual pedophile if he promises to make them rich, which he won't. That's the kind of structure that deserves being destroyed, does it not? Not kowtowed to because, oh, well, we can't discuss politics and religion. If you have that kind of go along attitude when the government kills thousands of people, or when a literal fascist oligarch who bears so many hallmarks of Mussolini takes office, you're a future part of history books that children will scoff and mock for being so weak, so stupid, so petty, that you couldn't even see that you live in a web of lies coming from a totalitarian surveillance state. You deserve to be ruled over by tyrants and Illuminati if you think someone who is opposed to that shit is somehow crazy, unhinged, or in a class alongside people who set themselves on fire during elections or who shoot up schools. You're an idiot if that's your hot take, and you should be exfoliated from civil discourse. Libra is called the fall of the sun because it is the most difficult life path, and that's what I am. Libras already know to respect everyone and be everyone's friend and make it all about love. You should be thankful we are here because we bring balance to the force, and without us, there would be a lot more bloodshed and darkness. I mean, think everyone from Gandhi to John Lennon, who were both Libras. But the other signs need blood sacrifice to appease their incompleteness. They think, no, anyone against Roe versus Wade is an evil man who should be strung up from the highest tree. Or, no, if you do not want to bomb the shit out of unarmed civilians in other countries because some kind of uninvestigated cultural vendetta happened, you are the problem. That's the kind of person that never knows that Israel created Hamas.